the hidden truth about your daily honey. Stop. Please put down that honey spoon. What if I told you that expensive jar of healing honey you just bought? You're about to destroy it. Right now. Today. This morning. Just like 78% of people who spend good money on premium honey. You're accidentally turning liquid gold into expensive sugar water. 3 seconds. That's all it takes. 3 seconds to kill every healing compound you paid for. And the honey industry, they don't want you to know this. I'm about to show you exactly how you're sabotaging your health every single day. And by the end of this video, you'll never touch honey the same way again. Because what happened to Robert, a 67-year-old engineer, who spent $300 on premium honey and felt absolutely nothing, could be happening to you right now. 2. The honey mystery begins. Here's what most people don't realize about honey. It's not just sweet liquid that happens to taste good. Honey is one of the most chemically complex foods on Earth, containing over 180 different natural compounds working together in perfect harmony. We're talking about enzymes, antioxidants, minerals, vitamins, amino acids, and bioactive compounds that have been fine-tuned by millions of years of evolution. But here's the catch. Many of these beneficial compounds are incredibly fragile. Think of honey's beneficial compounds like delicate butterflies. They're beautiful and powerful when handled correctly, but they can be easily damaged or destroyed if you don't know what you're doing. And unfortunately, most of us are unknowingly crushing these butterflies every single day. You see, honey isn't just food, it's a living pharmacy. Each drop contains glucose oxidase, an enzyme that produces hydrogen peroxide, giving honey its antimicrobial properties. There's catalase, which helps break down harmful compounds in your body. There are phenolic acids that fight inflammation, and oligosaccharides that feed beneficial gut bacteria. But all of these healing compounds have an Achilles heel. They're sensitive to their environment. This isn't just theory. Multiple research studies from food science laboratories have shown that how you consume honey can dramatically affect whether your body can actually use its beneficial properties. The temperature, the timing, even what you eat with it, everything matters. But there's one man whose story perfectly illustrates this hidden problem. A problem that cost him months of disappointment and hundreds of dollars. 3. The case of the disappearing benefits. Robert's journey. Meet Robert Thompson. At 67, this retired engineer was determined to age with vitality. After experiencing increasing joint stiffness and fatigue, he read extensively about honey's anti-inflammatory properties and decided to make it the cornerstone of his daily health routine. Robert wasn't taking any chances with cheap honey. Being an engineer, he approached this like any other project, with thorough research and precise execution. He invested in the highest-grade Manuka honey he could find, the kind with medical-grade certifications and impressive UMF ratings. We're talking about $35 for a small jar, more expensive per ounce than some luxury aftershaves.
I approached this scientifically. I bought the most expensive Manuka honey I could find, $35 for a small jar. Every morning at exactly 7 a.m. I'd add 2 tablespoons to my hot black coffee. I felt like I was taking a precise dose of natural medicine. I even kept a spreadsheet tracking my consumption. But after 3 months of meticulous routine, I felt exactly the same.
Robert was frustrated and confused. He was spending over $100 a month on premium honey, following what he thought was a perfectly calculated health routine. He'd analyzed testimonials from people claiming honey transformed their lives, reduced their inflammation, boosted their energy. But his joint stiffness in his hands and knees remained the same. His energy levels hadn't improved. The mental clarity he'd hoped to achieve was still elusive. He began to wonder if he was being fooled by clever marketing tactics. The frustration went deeper than just wasted money. Robert had approached this with the same methodical mindset that had made him successful as an engineer. He'd told his golf buddies about his new health protocol, even shared research articles with them. Now he felt like he'd fallen for some elaborate placebo effect.
I started to question my analytical abilities. Here I was, applying the same systematic approach that served me well in my 40-year engineering career, and nothing was happening. My son even joked that I was just creating the world's most expensive coffee. I felt like I was losing my edge, maybe getting too old to distinguish between real science and health marketing.
But Robert wasn't losing his analytical skills, and he wasn't being scammed. Honey's benefits are absolutely real. The scientific literature is overwhelming on this point. The problem was hidden in something so simple, so routine, that he never suspected it could be the saboteur. It was sitting right there on his kitchen counter, steam rising from its surface, destroying his honey's healing power every single morning. 4. The science behind honey's power. Before we reveal what was sabotaging Robert's honey, let's understand what makes honey so extraordinary in the first place. This isn't just folk medicine. Modern science has validated what ancient civilizations knew intuitively. Recent studies have identified over 600 different compounds in various types of honey. The most important ones for health include glucose oxidase, which creates a slow-release antiseptic effect, catalase, which helps neutralize harmful free radicals, and a whole family of phenolic compounds that provide powerful anti-inflammatory effects. But here's where it gets fascinating and fragile. These compounds work synergistically, meaning they enhance each other's effects when they're all present and active. It's like a precision-engineered machine, where every component must function correctly for optimal performance. Remove or damage even a few key components, and the entire system's efficiency plummets. Research from food science laboratories has shown that honey's therapeutic effects aren't just about individual compounds. It's about the delicate balance between all of them working together. This is why synthetic honey substitutes or processed honey products can never replicate the benefits of raw, properly consumed honey. The glucose oxidase enzyme, for instance, only produces its beneficial hydrogen peroxide when it encounters water in a controlled environment. Too much heat, and the enzyme denatures permanently. Too much acid, and it may become less effective. Mix it with certain proteins, and it can get bound up before it can do its job. This is exactly what was happening to Robert, though his engineering mind had no idea. Every morning, he was systematically destroying this delicate molecular machinery, one component at a time. 5. The heat destroyer revealed. What Robert didn't know is that he was committing what I call honey murder every single morning. The weapon? Heat. That steaming cup of black coffee that helped him start his day was actually cooking the life out of his expensive honey. Let's talk about the science of what happens when you heat honey. Studies have conclusively shown that when honey is heated above 104 degrees, its delicate enzyme structures begin to break down. This isn't gradual degradation, it's molecular destruction. The three-dimensional protein structures that make these enzymes functional start to unfold and lose their shape permanently. At temperatures above 140 degrees, you're destroying up to 80% of the compounds that make honey medicinal, rather than just sweet. But it gets worse. As the temperature rises, honey doesn't just lose its beneficial properties. It actually starts producing compounds that indicate degradation. Research has identified that heated honey produces hydroxymethylfurfural, a compound that increases with temperature and time. While small amounts aren't necessarily harmful, the presence of HMF indicates that you're transforming your healing honey into something completely different at the molecular level, essentially expensive sugar syrup. Robert's $35 Manuka honey was being transformed into costly sugar water. The moment it hit his 185-degree coffee, he might as well have been stirring in corn syrup. But here's the heartbreaking part. He was doing this because hot coffee seemed like the perfect delivery system for honey. It was efficient, routine, and fit perfectly into his morning schedule. The irony is that traditional cultures that have used honey medicinally for thousands of years never consumed it with boiling hot liquids. They understood intuitively what modern science has now proven, that honey's power lies in its raw, unheated state. But heat is just one of 3 honey killers that most people encounter every day without realizing it. The second involves a chemical interaction that's far more complex than most people realize. 6. The acid interaction. Robert's story gets more complex. Not content with just hot coffee, he also had a post-workout ritual of honey and apple cider vinegar, convinced it was optimizing his recovery and metabolism. He'd read articles about how this combination could improve insulin sensitivity and boost metabolism. What he didn't realize was that he was potentially interfering with his honey's beneficial compounds. When honey meets high-acid foods, apple cider vinegar, lemon juice, citrus fruits, even certain fermented foods, something called compound binding, can occur. The acids can potentially interact with honey's beneficial minerals and some antioxidants, possibly affecting their absorption. It's like trying to start a precision engine, but some of the key components might not be functioning optimally. Let's dive deeper into this chemistry. Honey contains various minerals like potassium, calcium, and magnesium in forms that are typically well absorbed by the human body. But when these minerals encounter acids like acetic acid from vinegar, they can form different compounds. While these new compounds aren't harmful, they may not be as readily available for absorption as the original minerals in honey. Studies from food science laboratories suggest that consuming honey with highly acidic foods might reduce the bioavailability of some of its key compounds. The exact degree varies depending on many factors, but the research indicates there can be measurable effects on absorption. That popular honey and apple cider vinegar health drink, while both ingredients have their own benefits, the combination might not be optimal for getting the maximum benefit from your expensive honey. But here's what makes this particularly relevant for someone like Robert. The combination seemed so logical and scientific. Apple cider vinegar had its own research backing its benefits. Honey had extensive research supporting its properties. So combining them seemed like an engineer's approach to optimizing health. The reality is that he might get more benefit from taking the honey and vinegar separately, with some time in between. The acid interaction isn't limited to vinegar. Citrus fruits, cranberry juice, and even some highly acidic fermented foods might have similar effects. It's not that these foods are bad, they have their own benefits. But they may not be the ideal partners for honey if you're trying to maximize its absorption. But the third honey killer is backed by the strongest scientific evidence of all. It's something that Robert, like 78% of Americans, consumed regularly as part of what he considered his healthy diet. This one has the most research supporting it. 7. The protein interaction. The third honey killer with solid scientific backing. Protein supplements and high-protein foods. Robert, dedicated to maintaining muscle mass as he aged, loved adding honey to his morning protein shake, thinking he was creating the perfect post-workout recovery drink. Instead, he was creating a well-documented molecular interaction. Here's where the science is most clear and compelling. Protein molecules, particularly those in whey and casein supplements, have a well-documented ability to bind with certain compounds in your digestive system. When you mix honey with protein powder, milk, or high-protein foods, these proteins can interact with honey's beneficial compounds. potentially reducing their absorption. Multiple comprehensive studies have found that consuming honey with high-protein foods can reduce antioxidant absorption by up to 50%. This isn't theoretical. It's been measured and documented in controlled research studies. Let's break down what's happening at the molecular level. Protein molecules have regions that are hydrophobic and hydrophilic. When honey's polyphenols and flavonoids encounter these proteins, they can get bound up in protein complexes, making them less available for absorption by your digestive system. Think about it from a biochemical perspective. Proteins evolved to bind and transport various molecules efficiently. When you mix honey with a protein shake, or eat it with high-protein foods like Greek yogurt or cottage cheese, these proteins are doing what evolution designed them to do. Unfortunately, that includes potentially sequestering some of the compounds you're hoping to absorb from your honey. The research on this interaction is quite specific and well documented. Studies have shown that the polyphenols responsible for honey's antioxidant effects can be reduced by 30 to 50% when consumed with certain protein supplements. The bioavailability of minerals can also be significantly impacted. Robert was unknowingly creating interactions in 3 different ways. Hot coffee destroying his honey's heat-sensitive enzymes, apple cider vinegar potentially interfering with absorption, and protein supplements binding with the remaining beneficial compounds. He had inadvertently created conditions that worked against optimal honey absorption. No wonder he felt no different after months of expensive honey consumption. It wasn't that the honey wasn't working, it's that his consumption method was potentially preventing optimal absorption. 8. The Great Honey Experiment. When Robert learned about these 3 scientifically documented interactions, he was intrigued. As an engineer, he wanted to test the hypothesis methodically. Could optimizing his consumption method really explain his disappointing results? He decided to conduct his own 30-day experiment, treating it like an engineering project with himself as the test subject. Robert approached this systematically, just like he would any engineering problem. He created detailed protocols based on the research. The rules were evidence-based, but required completely restructuring his established routine. First, no more honey in hot beverages. He would wait for his coffee to cool to body temperature before adding honey or take honey separately. Second, he would separate his honey consumption from acidic foods by at least 30 minutes. Third, no more honey with protein supplements. He took his honey on an empty stomach or with neutral foods only. Robert treated this like a controlled experiment. He kept a detailed daily log, noting his energy levels on a scale of 1 to 10, joint stiffness measurements, sleep quality metrics, and overall well-being indicators. He took the same amount of honey, those same 2 tablespoons at the same time each day. The only variable was how he consumed it.
The first week felt inefficient. Taking honey with just lukewarm water seemed like a waste of time compared to my streamlined coffee routine. It felt like I was taking medicine, instead of integrating nutrition into my existing schedule. But I committed to the full 30-day trial period. By week 2, something interesting started happening. I woke up one morning and realized I hadn't experienced my usual morning, joint stiffness in my hands.
What Robert was experiencing aligns with what researchers would expect. When honey's compounds are optimally absorbed, the anti-inflammatory effects typically become noticeable within 10 to 14 days of consistent, properly consumed honey. But he had never experienced this before because his consumption method had been working against optimal absorption. By day 15, Robert noted in his log that his afternoon energy dips had become less pronounced. His typical 2 p.m. fatigue, which he'd attributed to aging, was noticeably reduced. By day 20, his energy levels remained more stable throughout the day. The changes weren't just subjective. Robert, being methodical, had also been tracking measurable indicators. By day 30, he reported noticeable improvements in his overall sense of well-being and physical comfort.
It was like finally getting the results I'd been engineering toward for months. Same honey, same quantity, just proper implementation. I finally understood that I hadn't been failing at natural health. I'd been using suboptimal methodology. It was a classic case of user error, not product failure.
9. The deeper science. Why these interactions matter. Robert's transformation wasn't luck, it was applied science. To truly understand why these consumption methods matter, we need to examine how honey interacts with our digestive system and what happens when that process gets disrupted. When you consume honey optimally, it begins working before it even reaches your stomach. The enzymes in honey start interacting with enzymes in your saliva, beginning a complex cascade of beneficial reactions. Glucose oxidase begins producing small amounts of hydrogen peroxide, which provides antimicrobial benefits. As honey moves into your stomach, the relatively gentle acidic environment there can help activate certain compounds. The oligosaccharides begin their journey to your lower intestines, where they can feed beneficial bacteria. The antioxidants start to be absorbed through your stomach lining. But here's the critical part. This entire process depends on the compounds remaining intact and bioavailable. When you heat honey above that critical 104-degree threshold, you denature the enzymes before they ever have a chance to work. When you consume it with certain other foods, you may create interactions that can affect absorption. Research has shown that the bioavailability of honey's compounds, that is, how much your body actually absorbs versus how much you consume, can vary significantly depending on how you consume it. This could mean the difference between getting minimal benefit from your expensive honey versus getting more optimal therapeutic benefit. This explains why some people experience noticeable benefits from honey, while others, like Robert initially, see minimal effects. It's often not about the quality of the honey or individual differences in metabolism. It's frequently about consumption methodology. 10. Your complete honey optimization protocol. Robert's transformation demonstrates that optimizing honey consumption is about methodology. If you want to maximize honey's potential benefits, here's your evidence-based optimization protocol. These aren't just suggestions. They're based on documented scientific principles. Protocol 1. Master the temperature control system. Never add honey to anything hotter than body temperature, about 98 degrees. This temperature threshold is based on well-documented research about enzyme denaturation. If you love honey in your hot drinks, here's the systematic approach. Prepare your coffee or tea. Let it cool for 10 to 15 minutes until it's warm but not hot, then add your honey. You can verify this with a simple kitchen thermometer or use the finger test. If you can comfortably immerse your finger for 10 seconds, it's cool enough for honey. This single protocol modification can preserve most of honey's beneficial enzymes. From an efficiency standpoint, just by waiting a few minutes, you can maintain the integrity of the compounds you're investing in. Protocol 2. Consider the timing of acidic foods. Based on the research, consider creating some separation between honey and highly acidic substances. This means being mindful about consuming honey with very acidic foods, like citrus fruits or vinegar-based drinks, within the same time frame. A 30-minute window may allow for better absorption before introducing acids. That could potentially interfere. If you want to include both honey and acidic foods in your routine, consider this approach. Consume your honey first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. Then wait at least 30 minutes before having acidic beverages or foods. Protocol 3. Implement protein separation. This is where the science is clearest. Separate honey consumption from high-protein foods and supplements. Protein shakes, protein bars, high-protein dairy, even high-protein meals. The optimal honey consumption window is on an empty stomach, or at least 2–3 hours after consuming protein-rich foods. This gives the proteins time to move through your system before you introduce honey's beneficial compounds. Protocol 4. Consider enhancement partners. Some compounds may potentially work synergistically with honey. While more research is needed, some studies suggest that certain spices like cinnamon or black pepper might have complementary effects. However, treat these as possibilities to explore rather than guaranteed benefits. Protocol 5. Optimize your timing. The optimal time for honey consumption appears to be first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, approximately 20 minutes before breakfast. This provides honey's compounds with a clear pathway, without competition from other foods. If you want honey at other times, consider taking it when your stomach is relatively empty. Protocol 6. Perfect your delivery method. Take your honey with room temperature or slightly warm water, never hot water, which destroys the heat-sensitive compounds. The ideal temperature is water that's at or slightly below body temperature. This creates a gentle environment for honey's compounds to remain intact. 11. The quality control factor, selecting therapeutic-grade honey. Finally, if you're going to implement these protocols systematically, make sure you're using honey that actually has therapeutic compounds to preserve. This is where many people make a fundamental error. Even if they consume honey correctly, they're using processed products that have already lost most of their beneficial compounds during manufacturing. Here's your quality control checklist for selecting therapeutic-grade honey. First, it must be labeled as raw and unprocessed. This means it's never been heated above hive temperature, typically around 95 degrees. Genuine raw honey will crystallize over time. This is actually a sign of quality, not deterioration. If your honey maintains liquid state indefinitely at room temperature, it has likely been overprocessed. Second, implement strict label analysis. Quality honey should contain only one ingredient, honey. Avoid anything with added corn syrup, rice syrup, or other sweeteners. Some commercial honey products contain as little as 25% actual honey, with the remainder being cheaper sweeteners. Third, evaluate the source chain. Local honey from verified beekeepers often provides the highest quality, as it's typically processed minimally and hasn't been subjected to long transport times or heated storage facilities. Manuka honey from New Zealand, when properly certified with legitimate UMF ratings, offers unique additional benefits due to its methyl glyoxal content. But verify your sources carefully. Fourth, assess the physical properties. Raw honey often has a slightly cloudy appearance due to naturally occurring pollen, propolis, and other bee products. Crystal clear honey has usually been filtered and processed extensively, which may remove beneficial compounds. Yes, quality honey requires a significantly higher investment than supermarket varieties, often 3–5 times the cost. But consider this, you're not purchasing expensive sweetener. You're investing in a complex natural product with documented beneficial compounds. When consumed using proper protocols, even a small amount of high-quality honey may provide benefits that justify the cost differential. Robert calculated his cost per dose after implementing proper protocols. His $35 jar of Manuka honey, when consumed correctly, lasted 6 weeks and provided noticeable improvements in how he felt. That calculated to less than $0.85 per day for a natural anti-inflammatory approach that actually seemed to work for him. 12. Common implementation errors and prevention strategies. Even after learning about proper honey consumption protocols, Many people still make subtle implementation errors that may reduce their results. Let's address the most common mistakes so you can avoid Robert's initial frustration and achieve optimal outcomes from the start. Error number 1. The close enough temperature assumption. Many people estimate that warm temperatures are acceptable, but hot temperatures can exceed critical thresholds quickly. Coffee that feels merely warm to your lips might still be 122 to 140 degree internally. Always err on the cooler side. It's better to add honey to genuinely cool beverages than to risk denaturing those heat-sensitive enzymes. Error number 2. Overlooking hidden acid sources. People remember to avoid obvious acids like lemon, but overlook other acidic foods. Tomatoes, vinegar-based salad dressings, citrus-flavored beverages, and even some fermented vegetables are highly acidic. Consider maintaining that separation window comprehensively. Error number 3. The protein blind spot. It's not just obvious proteins like protein powder, cream in coffee, cheese consumed around the same time. Even protein-fortified foods can create the documented binding effect. Be comprehensive in your protein separation protocols. Error number 4. The quantity compensation fallacy. Some people think they can overcome suboptimal absorption by consuming larger quantities of honey. This approach doesn't address the underlying issues and can be counterproductive. 2 tablespoons of properly consumed raw honey will likely provide more benefit than 4 tablespoons of improperly consumed honey. Error number 5. Implementation inconsistency. Honey's benefits appear to be cumulative and work best with consistent daily consumption using proper protocols. Taking large amounts occasionally is less effective than smaller amounts daily with correct methodology. Robert's success came from consistent daily implementation. 13. The broader implications, evidence-based natural health. Robert's honey optimization journey reveals something important about natural health and why so many people become disillusioned with natural remedies. It's often not that the remedies lack potential, it's that we've lost the traditional knowledge about how to use them optimally. For thousands of years, humans consumed honey using specific methods that were developed through trial and observation. Traditional cultures developed detailed practices around timing, preparation, and combination of medicinal foods. But in our modern world, we've often reduced these complex natural products to simple add-to-taste ingredients. This helps explain why natural health can seem so inconsistent in its results. Some people experience benefits, others see nothing, and still others might even experience negative effects. The difference often isn't just the quality of the natural product or individual biological variations, it's frequently the implementation methodology. Research in traditional medicine and ethnobotany consistently shows that how you prepare, combine, time, and consume natural remedies can be just as important as what you consume. Yet, modern health advice often ignores these crucial implementation details, focusing only on what to take rather than how to optimize its use. Honey is an excellent example of this principle. Similar systematic approaches may apply to other natural remedies. The timing, temperature, combination protocols, and preparation methods all can significantly impact outcomes. When we ignore these factors, we might be using traditional products suboptimally and then concluding that they don't work. 14. Robert's long-term optimization results. 6 months after his 30-day optimization trial, Robert's improvements had become his new baseline, but the changes went beyond just physical improvements. He had developed a completely different approach to his health and to natural remedies.
The most significant realization wasn't that the honey started working better. It was that I understood how much control I actually have over my health outcomes through proper implementation. For years, I felt like aging was just a series of declining systems that I had to accept. But learning about proper honey protocols taught me that maybe I hadn't been failing at natural health. Maybe I just hadn't been applying optimal methodologies.
Robert became what he calls a protocol optimizer. He started researching the traditional implementation methods for other natural approaches, learning about proper preparation and consumption practices. He discovered that many of his previous experiences with natural health could be explained by implementation factors rather than product ineffectiveness. His energy levels stabilized at a point he hadn't experienced in over a decade. His joint comfort improved measurably, and he found himself feeling more physically capable and mentally sharp. His sleep quality improved, and his overall sense of well-being was noticeably better. But perhaps most importantly, Robert regained confidence in his ability to optimize his health using evidence-based natural methods. He went from feeling like aging was defeating his systematic approach to feeling empowered and knowledgeable about how to support his body's natural processes. His golf buddies noticed the change in Robert's overall performance and energy. Their weekly games shifted from discussions about aches, pains, and physical limitations to conversations about Robert's improved stamina, better game performance, and renewed enthusiasm for physical activities. 15. Your implementation strategy: deploying the honey protocol. The honey in your kitchen hasn't lost its therapeutic potential. You may just need to optimize how you're using it. By understanding these scientifically documented interactions and following evidence-based consumption protocols, you can experience what Robert discovered: honey that may actually deliver the benefits you're seeking. Begin implementation tomorrow morning. Take your honey first thing when you wake up, with just a small amount of room temperature water. Wait at least 30 minutes before consuming acidic foods, and at least 2 hours before consuming high-protein foods. If you usually add honey to hot beverages, prepare your drink, allow it to cool to body temperature, then add your honey. Give yourself the same 30-day optimization trial that transformed Robert's results. Keep a simple implementation log noting your energy levels, sleep quality, and any changes in how you feel overall. The improvements may surprise you. Robert went from feeling frustrated about his honey investment to becoming convinced of its potential benefits. The difference wasn't the honey, it was the systematic implementation of evidence-based consumption protocols. That same optimization is available to you, starting with your next measured dose. If this video revealed the science behind optimizing your honey consumption, please hit that like button and subscribe for more evidence-based health optimization insights. Share this with anyone who invests in quality honey, but might be accidentally working against optimal absorption through their consumption method. Your journey to better health starts with optimizing what you already have. The potential was always there. You just needed to know how to access it systematically.